Megan, this is one of your favorite companies to cover at LikeFolio, from what I understand, because of the strong brand awareness, the very key products that they have. But so I'll just let you kind of set us up on what we're seeing so far, where things shape up historically, and then I'm sure Kevin's got some questions, and I got some questions for you as well.
Yeah, Apple is a monster from a volume perspective. People love to talk about the different brands and the different products that they provide, as well as the services. So there are lots of different ways that consumers could be talking about Apple. For this segment, especially in light of the holiday season and holiday shopping approaching, we zoomed in on the devices that they offer. And what we see, I don't think is surprising. We see continued strength out of the Mac and the iPad heading into this holiday season. The Mac just got a nice bump upon the new release of the MacBook Pro, the MacBook Mini, and powered by its own Apple-made chip. That was really well received. You can see that those mentions are increased significantly in the last month. We're also starting to see a shift for the iPhone. Last time we talked about how it was really hard to compare iPhone mentions and iPhone demand year over year because Apple delayed and staggered this iPhone release. And so we're starting to see that iPhone demand pick up into the holiday season. You can see that trending up about 14% year over year. I think that, the initial spike so far from, the release of 2019 and 2020 is down a bit, but we're also a little bit later in the game. So we're watching this develop into the holiday season. And, so far we're seeing that uptrend, which is definitely what you want to see if you're Apple.
Megan, when we get to this time of the year and we get to the product cycle that Apple's in, the first thing that I wonder is, does Apple show signs or characteristics of the newer products shine while the older products take a back seat? And as they bring in the new products, they shine. Like last year, it was big on AirPods, right? Everyone got new AirPods and the AirPod Pro. This year, the new products are the new Mac, the new iPad, and obviously the iPhone. Is that what it is? And by the way, I think there's a new watch as well. I'm pretty sure. So is that what it is? Is it just kind of a rotation to the newer products that get more and more ink on Twitter and on social media, and the ones that are a little older, like the AirPod Pro, that's a full year old, does that kind of take a back seat? What do you guys notice pops? The newest products?
Yeah, in this season, definitely the newer products are showing more I guess, excitement or the consumer demand. I think that AirPods last year, they were so new. It was, not everyone had the AirPods. Now I think everybody has the AirPods. So I don't think it's that people don't like the AirPods necessarily, but last year was so viral. It's really hard to compare that year over year. So I think that, they're, from a happiness perspective, these brands are still really strong. Whenever we look at the iPhone that they just released, from a sentiment perspective, it's 10 points higher than last year's release. When we look at the Mac that they just released, Mac sentiment has increased 7 points since they released the new lineup earlier this month. So I think that that's really key to see that, okay, not only is demand starting to build for these new products, but sentiment is shifting up too. So people and consumers who are starting to get their hands on these products are liking what they're seeing. I think another interesting note, whenever we look at the model breakdown of the iPhone, is that, we noted that there seemed to be a higher demand upon announce for these higher end models. And we're definitely seeing that carry through right now. From a mention perspective, the top mentions that we get is for the Pro Max. If you're Apple, that's what you want to hear. You don't want, you want people buying all of your products, but you would prefer them to buy your more expensive products, right? Your higher end products. And so I think that it's interesting that we're seeing those Pro and the Pro Max demand levels higher versus the, I would say, cheaper models. So I think that that's something that, Apple is definitely well positioned going into this holiday season. It's certainly going to be interesting if, as Evelyn mentioned, if a lot of people do spring for deals on the Apple Watch, if people do spring for deals on the AirPods, that still remains to be seen in the next week. And so that's going to be really exciting to watch play out.
Megan, a couple questions. First one, kind of building on what Kevin asked and what you've just said there. Apple's obviously got strong market research. It's been a very, very powerful brand for quite some time. It's aware of these trends. It's aware of probably that its products are perceived as high quality. And quite frankly, the difference between the iPhone from this year and the year before, it's getting harder and harder to notice. I know 5G is supposed to be the game changer, and when that's implemented, maybe it'll spur some demand, for these products going forward. But to Kevin's point about the AirPods, if we all just got them last year, they're still working. We probably don't need another pair. And so while quality and happiness is perceived to go higher here, that's probably impacted the upgrade cycle a little bit too. Is that reflected in the data? Is the expectation got to be a little bit tempered here for consumers or at least investors on what Apple can actually, do at least in the US on a yearly basis?
That's a valid argument. I think that we did see that more so last year than this year with the iPhone in terms of this perception that it wasn't that big of an upgrade. I think we're seeing that a little bit this year with the Apple Watch, this perception that there really isn't that big of an upgrade from this year versus last year. But surprisingly with the iPhone, there are a lot of mentions with people do like the camera quality. I think you saw a lot of people hold off last year on that upgrade cycle that may be starting to cash in on this year's upgrade cycle now that 5G is in the iPhone. So, that's something that we're definitely watching. From an AirPod perspective, I think that that's definitely valid. We are seeing some significant year-over-year weakness in AirPod mentions specifically, but you can see this chart. These are mentions of people who are talking about buying an iPhone. You can see that starting to trend up, but also note, year-over-year, that initial spike is lower. So this is something that we've got to keep our eye on into the holiday season to see if consumers actually do splurge. If is this something that the timeline is just shifting, or is this something that ultimately demand will end up lower? So I think that, this weekend and this week, and especially heading into Christmas, that's going to give a really a much clearer picture on how things shake out for Apple.